Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Let us continue with the second part of the chapter 4 video, in which we are discussing on the internal factors or internal analysis on how we can create the sustainable competitive advantage that will be derived from your strength or weaknesses. And where can we identify all of these strengths and weaknesses? So all of those factors could be derived from your organizational functions in the organization. For example, the management, marketing, finance, R&D, management information system, production. So those are the areas that we can try to develop our distinctive competency. So the first area that we are going to discuss on the internal analysis, the internal aspect of the organization, is the management. This is quite general. So the functions of management consist of 5 basic activities: planning, organizing, motivating, staffing, and controlling. So some of the organizations, their main competitive advantage or distinctive competency is in terms of their staffing department, in which they have the center for training, they have their own center for development of the employees, the training center. So they own an in-house staffing development, which could help them to create competent employees, competent staff within the organization, and it is being developed in-house. So their trainers are from in-house, develop from in-house. So that could be their competitive strength that they have over the competitors. And then maybe perhaps in terms of the organizing, when we talk about the structure of the organization, for some companies they have a much sit back and relax type of an open type of structure, like Google, for example. They don't have a simple or complex structure like Procter and Gamble. So that could become a point for them to develop their own distinctive competency, which will lead to their distinctive sustainable competitive advantage. So these are some of the aspects for each of the basic functions. We talk about planning, organizing, motivating, and then you can have a look into each of these elements on your own. I'm not going to go into detail for each of these functions because I believe this is quite basic, and you should go and read on respective chapters, especially on the content for this part. And then staffing, waging, and then controlling. So the next one, we talk about marketing. So marketing is the process of defining, anticipating, creating, and fulfilling customer needs and wants for products and services. So when we talk about marketing, so these are some of the functions of marketing, from the customer analysis up to the cost benefit analysis. And some organizations, they can develop their own competitive advantage based on these functions of marketing. For example, like Procter and Gamble, because they have billions of dollars. It's $1 billion company, so they spend billion of dollars as well in terms of their advertisement of their products and services. Yearly, they spend, yes, more than 1 billion, and only on the advertising, only the promotional part. So that is considered as their competitive advantage. And for some other companies, we can look into how do they sell their products in terms of the differentiation that they have, the pricing that they have, which can help them to develop their own distinctive competency. So some of these elements, yes, again, you can look into each of these elements because it is quite common and very straightforward. For example, customer analysis, these are the things that you need to do. Some of the company, they can develop their distinctive competency because they have a good database on the customers. They can simply contact their respective customers, they do the follow-up, they do the evaluation, based on the customer profile. Like we talked about before about the Siti Khadijah, and how did they position their products very well in order for them to win the market in the industry, and because they have developed a good market positioning strategy. And then selling in terms of the promotion, publicity, personal selling. Nowadays they use online platform in order for them to do all of their selling parts. And some of the companies, they are much better because of why? Because they have a huge numbers of followers. We talk about Nilofa, for example, and for whatever product that she tries to sell to the public, to the consumer, it will immediately sell because she has a big number of followers in her online platform. And then the product must be different, and then the pricing is another important element on how you can charge the customer. This also could become a source of your distinctive competency, in which you have a form a good relationship with suppliers, different contracts, so that they can supply you with a much cheaper price of the resources. Or maybe perhaps you own the farm, so your pricing is a little bit lower as compared to the competitors. And then the distribution, sometimes you may have the whole fleet to distribute your product all over the country, the transportation, so that could also become your source of competitive advantage. And then marketing research, you have the team to do the marketing research, uh, distribution marketing research, and then the cost and benefit analysis. So the next area that we are going to focus on after management and marketing is finance and accounting functions. So there are three main functions of finance and accounting within the organization. Number one, to discuss on the investment division, and then number two is on the financing division, and number three is on the dividend division. I believe that each of these elements you have already discussed as well in the ENT code last master. It's pretty much the same when we talk about finance and accounting. So these are the areas of decisions that needs to be made, whether or not how are you going to invest, how are you going to find the capital in order to invest your project or for your particular new strategy. And then the financing decision, whether or not we want to use our own pocket money, we want to borrow from banks, and so that's also is another type of level of decision. And then the dividend decision, how are you going to pay out the dividend for your shareholders. So these are some of the issues or elements that we have talked about in terms of the capital, the financing decision, as well as the dividend decisions. And then in these particular sections, they talk about all of the ratios that I will not go into each of the ratios. You can look into each of these ratio, and then in the finance code as well, you have already developed an understanding on these particular issues. So in this particular video, we are not going to go into each of the detail, but you can refer back to each of the formula here in order for you to get the answer for each of the financial ratios. And then we talk about the production department. So consists of all activities that transform inputs into goods and services. So the production departments deals with inputs, transformation, and outputs that vary across industries and markets. For some organizations, they don't have warehouses, in which they will use the just-in-time system as part of their specialty or their distinctive competency as compared to the competitors. But for some organizations, they have had huge warehouses in which they can store bulk of their resources in-house that can be used for their production unit. So it depends on how that particular function would benefit your organization. So these are the decision areas with regards to the production, that the one that I mentioned about in terms of the inventory, in terms of your capacity to do the planning, in terms of the workforce, in terms of the quality. Some of the companies they are very good in terms of quality. They develop, incorporate all of the quality elements, tools in the market towards their production departments to ensure that there is zero defect, zero accidents, zero wastage, which would help them to minimize the price of their products, end product to the customer. So what are the implications with regards to the production? So these are some of the implications that we can discuss. Sometimes the organizations, they focus on becoming the low cost provider. So the implications, this can create a high barrier to entry to other competitors, and then you can create a larger market share, larger market, and then requires longer production runs and fewer product changes. If your products are standardized, are standard, are generic, are common products, so maybe you can focus on becoming a low cost provider, and then become a high quality provider. So the implication, and then what we need is that we need to have highly skilled workers, and you need to pay higher wages, and then requires more expensive equipment, but as in return you are able to sell your product at much uh, higher prices. For example, all of the branded items, branded goods, which sometimes some of them are being charged ridiculous prices as compared to the generic products, but they serve for different, they meet the same purposes, the same function. And then provide great customer service, so requires more service people, service parts, and then more friendly type of employees, require rapid response to customer needs, and then higher inventory investment, and then be the first to introduce new products. So what does it imply? You need to have the R&D, research and development center, and then you need to have good training among your employees. So that is the implication. And then becoming highly automated, so requires high capital investment for the machineries and equipments, and then minimize layoff, serve the security needs of employees, and may develop employee loyalty, help attract and retain highly skilled employees. So for the research and development, believe me, there would be a question on this part that we have already discussed. They ask about the implications of the research and development as well as the production into the cases that you are going to do for the submission. So maybe you need to look back into the content in the textbook, and then refer back to the video that I'm doing for this particular chapter at the moment. So these are some of the R&D. When we talk about R&D, whether or not the company has the R&D, whether or not they adequate. So what does the R&D would help, would contribute to the organization? You can do more innovation, and then you can improve on the quality, and then you can develop a good customer base, and then you can develop a good customer services with your employees, with your customers, and this would translate into better relationships that you can develop with your customers, and this also could be developed into your distinctive competency as compared to the competitors. Some companies, they have their own research and development, so we know that they are keep on improving the products and services that they offer to the customer. And finally, we go into the management information system. For some organizations, they have a good management information system in which they are able to analyze, restore a huge amount of data. So this information system is very important, especially when you are doing business internationally. So if you don't have a good management information system, it would it will not support the strategy that you are trying to implement for your organization. So I will stop here first, and then what we have already discussed in this section of the video, we look into several functions of organization, and then we look at how each of these function could be developed into providing or developing a distinctive competency which can be focused to become organizational competitive advantage. All right, so we will continue again in the next video to wrap everything up. Peace.